Hello guys, today we're gonna build a PC and I'm gonna unbox all the parts here with you. I'm gonna show you all the parts, unbox them with you and assemble everything. So sit back and enjoy the show and I hope you like it. I'm gonna go first with all the parts so you can see what we're gonna build. So our motherboard is an ASRock B760 Pro RS. This is a decent ATX motherboard for support for 12 gen Intel CPUs. Our CPU of course is an Intel i7 12700K. That's an LGA 1700 box. For RAM we are using Corsair Vengeance DDR5. This is 32 gigabytes, 2 RAM of 16 gigabytes each at 5200 megahertz. And for storage we're gonna use a Crucial P3 Plus. This is a PCI Gen 4 NVMe SSD. For cooling we're gonna use Be Quiet Darkroom Pro 4. This is a beast of a cooler. It's even larger than my hands. And for this of course you're gonna need a big case to fit in. For graphics we're going for something basic and good in a way, with an RTX 2060 from Gigabyte. It has ray tracing, 12 gigs of VRAM, so it's gonna do some mid gaming, no problem. And to power everything up, we're gonna use a Corsair RM850E power supply, which I think it's sufficient for our 2060 GPU. First, what you need to do is take the motherboard, remove everything from it. Take the motherboard out from the box and you're gonna use the motherboard box as your bench. You take the motherboard out gently. And you also need to be careful not to pierce your fingers on the small pins all around the motherboard. So ASRock is protecting the motherboards with this foam and some zip ties all over it. So let's cut those away. We are taking our nip plier here, cutter, how you want to say it. And now that's that out of the way, we can take out our motherboard. And you can put it on the ESD protective film that has with it. And now first thing to do is place our CPU. You open the two notches here. You go ahead and unbox your CPU. Here it is. Okay, now if you look on the CPU, you see this small arrow here, which you're gonna have to align with the arrow that shows up on the motherboard, which is usually down here. But just to be clear, yes, it's also shown here on this small plastic thingy on the motherboard. Let me bring it closer for you to see. Here it has this small arrow, and then you align the CPU on the same position. You also have these little cutouts on the CPU, which align with these small notches here on the CPU area. And you gently grab it from the sides. You have these holes here for you to grab the CPU, and gently you put it into place. You give it a small wiggle just to check that it's in place. No need to force it or anything. You first close the first part, you hold it down, and then the second part, this goes out of the way automatically, and then you close it. And that's it. Now it's secured in place. Then what we're gonna do is take our cooler, the small beastie cooler. You've got all this massive box with manuals and fittings and everything. Oh, and Be Quiet also gives you this nice screwdriver. This is long enough because when you screw the cooler in it, it's long enough to reach down in length and screw the cooler into place. Here is the one fan we're gonna use. It has two fans, the CPU cooler, and it does a really good job on keeping the CPU nice and cool. We'll remove the fans from the cooler. And this particular cooler has these little screws, these ones here, which you unscrew, and from here there goes down the screwdriver, and you screw it into place. But now we have to prepare its mounting for the RGA 1700 sockets. Here are all the things we're gonna need. Now it shows you here that this is for AMD and this is for Intel. Obviously AMD is not needed. This is the back plates that goes underneath the motherboard. And here are all the screws that will hold it into place. Here it also shows that this is for Intel 1700 series and 1800 series. And this is maybe for other models, I don't know. So we're not needing this. We're gonna use just this. You also consult your manual. Don't do a sidewall always, of course. So we need these thingies here to go underneath the back plates, and we hold them into place with these rubber things. Washers, how do you want to say it? Rubber washers, yes, I think I got it correctly. Now sometimes there are some small screws in the center area here, and you're gonna have to align which side is upside or down. In this case it's all the same, so just gonna flip it around and we're going in. We hold this down and turn our motherboard back, and we're gonna hold it here. And now we secure it back to place. I think these are the screws that will hold it. Yes. So they have this small cutout here, so you can screw them here. You don't go squeeze it all the way down, even pressure to all sides. This is the most important thing to do while building your computer, to have a really flat surface contact of your CPU cooler to the CPU. So try to apply as even pressure as possible to all sides. I'm gonna use my screw to tight everything down. You see, I'm only using 2 fingers and I'm not squeezing, I'm not giving any power at all. Where it stops, I'm gonna leave it, so I'm not over tightening and bending anything underneath on the back plate. It stops here. And stops here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these standoffs and we're gonna mount them underneath here. And I noticed that we're missing one part, which is it was in this back here. This long piece here is needed, and this is a fan splitter. Actually it's PWM splitter. In case your motherboard only has one CPU header, you can use this and take 2 fan headers out, since it has 2 fans, our CPU cooler. So this is not really needed. And we need to screw this in this way. Even pressure to all sides. And now to test fit. Yeah, now it's correct. Now what we're gonna do is, before I mount all this beast of a cooler here, I'm gonna install the M.2 SSD, and for that I'm gonna use my really big screwdriver, because the screws are really large. Just kidding. It will be a pain in the ass to later install it after the cooler. We wouldn't have so much space. Now under the M.2 armor, as it's called by ASRock, or shield, or heatsink, or whatever, is our M.2. And all the data of the computer will be stored in this little thing here. This is the whole disk, and it's just 1 terabyte, which is good. It's enough. And now you need to remove the protective film, and this is the pad that will help dissipate the heat from the SSD to the to the M.2 plate here and cool it down. So we're gonna just firmly keep it here and put the shield back on. And now that that's out of the way, we can continue and mount our cooler. Now you need to peel off label before you use it. Warning, please read this and please do it, as if you don't remove it and you place it like this, it's a 100% burn CPU after that. And what we're gonna do now is apply our thermal paste. Now Be Quiet is sending a small portion here, but I'm not gonna use this. I'm gonna use my trusted MX4 here, thermal compound from Arctic. And we're gonna do some drawings here. We're gonna do one line here, and another one line here, and another one here. And then we're gonna spread everything. I just got this little spatula today, so this is my first spread with my spatula. You can just put a good amount in the center of the CPU and just squeeze it with the cooler. It should be okay, but it's better if you just spread it all the way evenly across and you don't use too much or too little. Look at that, just perfect. Now we're gonna prepare our screws to screw that metal thingy onto our mount. Wow, I'm really good with this. Just kidding. So now the tricky part is that you have to take the screwdriver first and then get the screw underneath it, and then you go down and screw it into place. And the same for across. I'm gonna turn it just a little bit so I can do this side as well. First the screwdriver, then you take your screw. And the hole in one. And remember, no over tightening it. You just tighten it evenly, both sides, without bending anything. And now what you can do is check that it really is flat down there and it's making a good contact to the CPU. And as you can see, it's really flat. I'm glad about this installation. Now what we're gonna do is mount our fans. And before I mount this fan, I'm gonna install the RAM so I have more clearance now. And if you can look on the motherboard here, here it shows the DIMM number, and it shows that A2 and B2 will go first. So the outer RAM slots will go first. Since we're not gonna fully populate the RAM, we open the outer RAM slots as shown on the motherboard. Every motherboard has its own slot sequence, and even if you don't see the indication on the motherboard, you can read the manual, but usually now they just show it on the motherboard for more convenience. Ta-da! These are really beautiful and really fast. And you see on the RAM you have these little notches here that you align with your RAM slots here. And once you put them into place, you firmly squeeze on both sides and you hear the click on the other side as well, and then you confirm that it's into place and we are good to go. Now we'll install our fan. And now the main PC is actually assembled. Now what we're gonna have to do is take this and put it in the box and connect all the wires, sorry. And now we're gonna clean up a little our space and prepare the case. And with the power of video editing, we are back and we have our case. So these are all the screws that come with the case, pretty much basic. You have some standoff, the screw for the standoff, screws for everything, and some zip ties that we're just gonna throw away. And here are all the cables. I've got such a mess. And the good thing about this case is that it has already pre-installed two 200mm fans. It has this fan header, and it's tempered glass on the side, so the customer can see our beautiful work. LED here. So I'm just gonna try to route everything in a good way. So these are the RGB headers and the two fan headers. And this is and data. Now this is the RGB header that goes onto the motherboard. Just gonna take it away for now. Okay. And gonna deal with all this mess later. Now we do the important stuff. Like putting our motherboard. So it supports from mini ITX to extended ATX, and bring our motherboard here. And we can check that we need one more standoff here, here, up here, and down here. So we're gonna open the screws that came with the case. These go to the trash. This is a really important piece of accessory. This screws the standoffs onto the case. A lot of manufacturers actually don't include this, but Sama fortunately does. And I'm gonna just open the screws right here to the side. You cannot see them, but imagine they are here. So we need 3 standoffs for the motherboard. These little things screw onto the chassis and the motherboard down here. And remember, don't over tighten. And let's find all the screws needed. I usually really like this screwdriver, but when it comes to the motherboard, I only use this shorter one because it can really go deep down without any interruptions from the cooler or any other part, the case maybe. And you can screw it as in any order you like. I usually go diagonally to center it mostly. And now they are all into place. And now we can mount our exhaust fan. This is SLN Wings 3 120mm fan, which connect as our exhaust. And just to be clear, Be Quiet didn't sponsor the video. I just really like their stuff. All black and really cool and silent and everything. And we're gonna take the accessories box. I prefer to use the screws rather than those rubber thingies. And we're gonna need these fittings. Now remember that heat rises, so we have sorry, excuse me, we have our intake here, intake, exhaust, and I'm gonna mount it on the higher side, so where most of the hot area will be around here, and it's gonna exhaust everything. Now this can go out of the way to make some space. And now the next thing to do is screw our power supply and start connecting everything and cable manage everything, which is the most annoying process of the entire build. But don't worry, I'm gonna fast forward everything when I start cable managing because it takes too much of my time and I prefer not to bore you with my boring talk and just do my thing. So in the box of the power supply we find some better quality actually zip ties, the screws for the power supply. We find these do not eat things, so we throw them away. This is for the latest graphics cards that require the 12-pin adapter. We have the power cord, safety and compliance information that we're gonna throw away. We have a bag of all the connectors and of course the motherboard itself. Which is really small but it's gonna mount here and it's gonna be pretty. Now before we screw our power supply into place, I like to find all the connectors that will go to the power supply from the motherboard and peripherals and everything else. So what we're gonna do is check our graphics card, the connectors it needs. And as we can see, it only requires one 8-pin connector. So that's this can go out of the way again. We see here our motherboard that requires 2 8-pin EPUs to connect. And now that we open our back, we're gonna choose our cables. We need the 24-pin motherboard cable. One 8-pin EPU is ready. Second EPU is ready. We're not gonna connect any Molex connectors, so this will go the way. We need one 8-pin adapter for the graphics card. We need one SATA for the hub underneath behind the chassis, and the other things are extra, so they can go out of the way and this into the trash. Okay, and these are all the cables we're gonna need. And what we're gonna do is make some space here. I hope you can see until down here. I cannot go any further into the desk. And now with this out of the way, we can take our power supply and connect all the cables. You make sure you connect them really firmly into the power supply, as even a bit, even 1 millimeter stays out of the connector, it's not going to work. So please be careful with the power delivery to your system. It's really crucial. Now, if you are going to use your PC on a carpet or something, it's better the fan that will face the side up, so it doesn't suck any dust from the carpet inside the unit. And now that's done, we're going to turn our case again and connect all the connectors onto the motherboard. So this is for the graphics card, so we're gonna leave it at the very end. I'm gonna put it down here and get it later. And now we go back again. And now we can mount our graphics card. Okay, before you mount your graphics card, make sure that the notch here is pressed back, because if you try to mount it like this, definitely you're gonna break something. And it's not something you're gonna like breaking. And now let's connect it. And now for the moment of truth, just to show how good I am. Just kidding. I'm gonna put it up with you. Open the power cord, open the power supply switch, and moment of truth. There's the lights. And we're gonna wait a bit for the first time boot. It's normal to take some seconds to boot up the first time. If it doesn't boot for much time, then it's not normal. But as you can see, we are in, and we are into the BIOS setup by pressing the delete key on most motherboards. And what we're gonna do here is click on XMP profile, so it can load our RAM max megahertz, in this case 5200 megahertz, and also it's gonna overclock the CPU. We save the settings with F10. You can see the changes you made, and you hit enter. Maybe sometimes it's gonna restart to 1 or 2 times to apply the effects, or maybe it's gonna take them straight away. We have our bootable USB connected to the PC, so when it starts, it's gonna start booting into Windows. And I'm also gonna show you how to install Windows on your PC. Just gonna come a bit closer. So this is the first screen you see when booting into Windows with unbootable USB. You select your language to install, time and currency format, keyboard or input method. I just leave everything to UK since it's our following language in Cyprus. So I'm gonna press next. We install now. The same way you use to format PCs, etc. Here you insert your license key. I'm gonna get it later. So you click here, I don't have a product key. You can use Windows without a key, just gonna pop messages all the time, purchase license, etc, etc. I'm gonna be installing Windows 11 Pro. You click next. You read everything, the biggest lie of your life, accept everything, and next. And here it says upgrade or customize. You go to customize, install Windows only. And in case you are formatting, you're gonna see here a lot of partitions. It's normal. You just select each one and you delete it until you have this drive 0 or 1 or 2 and it says unallocated space. You hit next and it starts copying the file from your USB to the boot drive and then extracting the files and installing Windows. It's pretty easy actually, it's pretty fast as well. So if you like the video, give me a like, subscribe maybe if you want to see any future more builds or anything else you want to see. And see you again. Bye bye.